Good morning. Good morning. I should have gotten the bowl. Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples. Just so you are aware, one of our members, Dick Sharp, had a little collapse this morning, I think some low blood pressure, and medical help arrived quickly in the form of some members of the congregation and then the EMTs. He revived a little bit and is conversant. I think he sort of passed out a little bit. So on his way to the hospital, and hopes that that's all there is to it. But we'll keep an eye on that. Thank you for your patience in coming in or going out, whatever was going on. So let's take a deep breath. And welcome again to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples. My name is Tony Fisher. I serve the congregation as its minister, and gratefully so. And appropriately, this morning I wanted to give a shout out to our caring committee, who does a fabulous job of caring for you, the congregation, for each other, visiting, sending cards, making meals, giving rides, a ministry of presence. They do such a wonderful job behind the scenes, and I just wanted to honor them this morning. Their members include Joan Leary, Sandy Brown, Deborah Vahab, Ray Eddy, Cheryl Inglis, Christina Wright, Earl Anderson, Elizabeth Guyton, Janet Hoffman, Marge Ostrom, Rose Lemery, Joan Insel, Ann Bergeson, Skip Lungberg, and of course Adrian Cady. So thank you, all of you who are here. If any of you are here, stand up. Marge is here, Joan is there, Patsy. I neglected Patsy Sachs, who is also over here in the choir, so thank you for that. I'm also very grateful to have Patty Bryan here as our worship associate this morning. She got the bowl out. She was ready. So.
A little late. Thanks, Tony, and good morning. We are so glad that you've joined us, whether you're here in the sanctuary or watching us on Facebook Live, or out on our pavilion. Know that you are always welcome here. We are a welcoming congregation, freely seeking intellectual and spiritual growth. We strive to create a larger community of peace, justice, and love. Here, we learn and grow together and try to live our values out in public. If you're new to our congregation, we're especially grateful that you found us. Our hope is to make you feel welcome and help you find ways to connect. And now, let's take a deep breath and settle ourselves into this time of worship and the morning's prelude.
We come to this hour from many different places. Some of us have arrived with a curious mind, seeking new ways to view the world. Some of us come from a place of need, yearning for a community of caring. Some of us have woken this morning with a feeling of hope for a planet where justice can prevail. A few of us have come bearing our grief, searching for peace in a time of uncertainty. More than a few of us have come with a sense of regret that things might have gone differently, perhaps seeking ways to forgiveness. Some come to this hour with sleeves rolled up, ready to work towards the common good. We come to this hour from many different places, yet each finding in this community a home and a reason to believe that all will be well. Let's join in the chalice lighting words that you'll see on your screen or in your order of service. May this flame stir our hearts and remind us of our mission, to be truly welcoming, to grow in mind and spirit, and to widen the circle of peace, justice, and love. And let's rise and join in singing our opening hymn, Gather the Spirit, number 347. The words will also be on your screen.
The power, our separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery of this hour. Our trials in this light appear all the same. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Gather the spirit of heart and mind, seeds for the sowing are laid in store, nurtured in love and conscience refined, with body and spirit united once more. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit growing in all, drawn by the moon and fed by the sun, winter to spring and summer to fall, the chorus of life resounding as one. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again.
Please be seated. Dan, could you go back to the sort of the intro slide to this section? Building a new world. So I wanted to share a little bit about my walk the week before this past one. Keep it up there. I want to make sure everybody sees that that's me right there. So, there are a few people who saw me walking around quite happily this week saying, "You didn't really do that, did you?" Actually, the walk physically for me, except for some hip soreness at the end of each day, was actually quite easy and remarkably so. I do walk every day, but a good part of it was the Spirit that lifted us up every day, every moment of our days as we walked. For those of you who are not aware, I joined the Coalition of Immokalee Workers, a justice-based organization that exists 25 miles east of us in Immokalee, a farm worker justice organization. I joined them on a 50-mile march from Pahokee, Florida, the site of a very recently adjudicated case of modern-day slavery, 50 miles to the streets of Palm Beach, Florida, quite a wealthy community. Also the home of Trian Partners, which is the primary owner of Wendy's Corporation, a corporation that has not signed on to the Coalition's Fair Food Program. And again, the Fair Food Program is a way for organizations all up and down the food chain to ensure that the people who are doing the work, the essential work of planting and harvesting and packing and shipping the food we eat every day, are treated with dignity and respect. I am a member of the Faith Working Group of the Coalition, and my job, therefore, is to spread the word of farm worker justice to the wider religious landscape, along with members from the Jewish tradition and Presbyterian Church and Methodist Church. It's a wonderful small group of people who try to get the word out, especially around actions like the one that happened the week before last. The march, I believe, was a success. It was a success in that it raised general awareness of the plight of many farm workers still in this country who are working under conditions that we would blanch at if we thought we were buying clothes from a sweatshop in Indonesia or in wherever. We're buying food, most likely, from farms that are misusing their labor significantly. So this march was an effort to raise awareness, which I believe it did. The press coverage was great. Both Publix and Wendy's felt the need to respond, not in capitulation, but in defense. So that was a positive impact. And if you could have seen the faces of the wonderful people of Palm Beach as we marched 600 people through their city, you would have been delighted, actually, I think. I wanted to spend this time trying to describe the impact of this march personally. Obviously, I'm only one small little piece, a couple of feet in many doing this march. It really is hard to describe the sense of camaraderie, the sense of purpose, the sense of uplift and singing and chanting and conversing with my fellow travelers, people from all over the country. I tried to report a little bit on the folks that I walked with, but it was truly, I had two opportunities to talk first to the marchers alone on Thursday morning and giving them something of a blessing as we started out, and expressing the fact that the diversity that I saw as I looked out at the marchers was truly stunning. And that this, in fact, was what democracy looks like. People using their voices and their feet for a cause that aligns with the common good, for everybody's good. The corporations that are sort of holding back, it would be much to their benefit if they would to sign on to this Fair Food Program. The second time I had an opportunity to talk was at the rally before to the 600 people who were marching on Saturday. People from workers from California and Minneapolis, people from the east coast of Florida, union people from the west coast of Florida. What I said is that as people of faith, or as people who maybe don't have a particular faith, the reason that they were there is that they had some sort of moral compass that says this kind of treatment of the people who do this work for us every single day is unconscionable. We have here, everybody here has a moral compass, and that you're here wanting to act. And what we are trying to do is raise the awareness of corporations that do not seem to have an understanding of the common good, or are they exhibiting a moral compass. And it is our job, with joy, which is what the march was truly, to go out there and shout and sing and let people know that we believe in fairness, in equity, and diversity throughout our communities. And so it was, for me still, I'm trying, but I'm not able to describe the emotion. And my wife arrived on Saturday. She was over there sending us off on Tuesday morning and arrived on Saturday to take part in the march. And she asked me right away, "How are you doing?" And I said, "I'm doing great." And she said, "You look like you're doing great." And then I was out there introducing her to everybody. And if you know Ann and me, you know she's the extrovert. And whenever she's around, I tend to, step back a little bit and let her do the talking. And there I was, just sort of introducing her to everybody that I'd met, and just effusing about all the folks that I'd met. And that sort of spirit was, I think, among all the folks who marched. So I appreciate very much everybody who sent a note of encouragement, not only to me, but to all the marchers. Thank you so much. It was meaningful. I was able to share that with some of my fellow walkers as I went. And so again, thank you for both those words of encouragement, but also as a congregation for your support across the years. And I do want to emphasize this for the Coalition of Immokalee Workers, for the people of Immokalee beyond the coalition, for the congregation's work for the last 30 years, I think, almost, in terms of supporting the people of Immokalee who really need our encouragement, our support, and yet they have taken what they've done so much further than we could have ever imagined. Organizations across the country are following the coalition's model. This small little group of farm workers from Immokalee have created a model for engagement with large organizations that seems to be working, and even in countries in South America who want to take on the Fair Food Program as a country, so that any produce that's coming out of that country, we can be assured that the workers are being treated fairly. So it's a remarkable story, and I'm grateful to be a part of it, as I hope are you. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. So let's take another deep breath and sing together Spirit of Life. Words will be on your screen as we center into our time of sharing.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Fuente de amor, ven hacia mí, y al corazón cántale tu compasión. Bla volar, sube en la mar, hasta moldear la justicia de la vida. Arraigame, fuente de amor, ven a mí, ven a mí.
As we think about Dick Sharp and his journey to the emergency room, and hopefully what we saw in the last few minutes was indicative of how his course will go. We recognize that everybody here in this sanctuary experiences both joys, sorrows, ups and downs, health issues, concerns. This is our time for sharing as a community. If you have something that you would like to share of a personal nature, I urge you to raise your hand. I'll bring you the microphone. State your name and tell us what's in your heart, joys and sorrows.
Hi, Doug Bloddick. I have a joy. My wife Heather and I, today is our 18th wedding anniversary.
Woo!
Hi, my name is Jonathan Nyberg, and my partner Jim and I are new to this congregation. Actually, Jim is over in the choir, has joined the choir. But my joy today is that my mother is here and my Aunt Gloria from Minneapolis, and this weekend we are celebrating 154 years of life. So thank you for life.
Wow. What a great way to put it. And welcome to you all. Thank you for being here. Anyone else?
I'm Sonia from Minneapolis, actually a suburb of Minneapolis, where I was music director for 43 years. I started very young. The joy I want to express today is in finding this wonderful place. I've been a Unitarian for many, many years, and I've lived here now for 3 months, and it's been such a joy to visit your church. And I'd like to take you all home with me.
Thank you, Sonia.
Meade Summers here. My best friend growing up and for my whole life is in the hospital fighting for his life right now.
Thanks, Meade, and our thoughts are with you and with him. Thank you.
My name is Gail Niels, and John and I have been coming here pretty regularly since January 1st, but we went home for 3 weeks, and I just want to say it's a joy to be back here. In the months that we were here and yesterday, we have been we've only stuck our toe in the ocean of love that comes out into the community, but we have enjoyed being at the Progressive Voices and yesterday at the reparations workshop. And I look forward to lots more time here and lots more growth.
Thanks, Gail. So I do want to give a shout out to the trio that organized our reparations workshop yesterday, Cheryl Dromgoole, Alan Smith, and Mary, where is she? And I'm just blanking on the last name. Porcino. So they did such a fabulous job of organizing a 3-hour workshop on reparations. This was a pilot. The program will be available in the fall for everybody, and I totally urge you to participate in that. It's such an eye-opening, awakening program, worthy of our attention and our conversation. So thank you to the three of them and to Taro for sponsoring. As we shift into a time of meditation, let's honor those joys and sorrows that were spoken and also those that remained unspoken and left in our hearts, hopefully to share at another time. Let's join in the spirit of meditation.
This meditation is called This World, and it's by our very own Reverend Tony Fisher. This world, our world, seems to shrink in size every day. The news of once distant lands is now available at our fingertips on demand. Yet at the same time, the world is growing. It grows each moment in its complexity. How can we possibly understand it all? How can we possibly navigate through the vagaries of this life that we lead? Spirit of life, help us to understand that we are not alone. Help us to remember that it's not just the limits of our individual minds and bodies that define who we are, but that we are shaped as much or more by other people and other things. For better or worse, the thoughts and dreams of our parents, the ideals of our friends, the opinions of our peers, the values we share in community, and the world we experience every day have all taken part in the creation of what we, mistakenly perhaps, call ourselves. In order to keep up with a growing and changing world, we too must continue to grow and to change. But we can't do that alone in a vacuum. It is good, then, that we have each other to lean on. It's good that we have each other to listen to and to share with. It is good that we can continue to build together, and may it always be so.
Spend some time in silence.
The text for what we're about to sing is in Hebrew, and the translation is, "Please God heal us with renewal of the soul." It is from the shortest prayer in the Torah.
And this reading is by Melissa Harris Perry. It's called, oddly enough, Unitarian Universalism. Melissa Harris Perry, a Unitarian Universalist, is the host and managing editor of The Takeaway, which is a daily public radio program produced by WNYC in New York City. She is also the Maya Angelou Presidential Chair in the Department of Politics and International Affairs at Wake Forest University. The following was excerpted from a preface of the current edition of the Unitarian Universalist Pocket Guide. Unitarian Universalism is not attached to particular beliefs. Rather, it's committed to specific work, striking a balance between openness to differing viewpoints on one hand and fierce advocacy of shared ethical claims on the other. Our history is a rich, complex, imperfect, and collective struggle to balance these goals, while at the same time building diverse and supportive communities. Having finally set aside divisive doctrinal battles, we seek a straightforward commitment to the fluid, open, collective work of seeking our truths together without assuming that we all will share the same truth. Our work exists in finding practical and nurturing ways to govern ourselves and our congregations by living out our commitment to openness, to the democratic process, to human equality, to social justice, and to personal exploration without harsh judgment. Our faith is a belief that we can embrace the common good through how we interact with one another, by holding fast to our precept of inclusion, participation, and non-judgmental disagreement. Our faith is a practice of intellectual humility, reminding us of our own limitations. Our faith assures us that we are not alone and that we can be part of something greater than ourselves. The journey is the joy. The companions are the comfort, and the work is the faith.
For we do not own the winds, for we do not own the winds, the winds. Then what we must always do, what we must always do, is adjust ourselves, adjust ourselves, adjust ourselves, ourselves, for we do not own the winds.
Thank you. I'm always amazed. The winds of change are constant, ever blowing. And as the text suggests, an anonymous writer of the text, it is ours to change with the wind, to adjust our sails, if you will. I wanted to talk to you today about a change that is blowing at our associational level, significant changes potentially to how we express ourselves to the wider world, and how our national organization is, how they are organized, what sort of principles, values they are organized around. Article 2, you have on your seats or have in your hands a set of 3 different documents. So let me orient you first to what you have, and then let me go forward. So the number 1 is the association's initial principles as they came as the Unitarian Association of America and the Universalist Church of America merged in 1961. They struggled to create some language in which they could bind these 2 organizations together, what principles brought them together. And what you see at the top of page 1 there is a set of 6 principles that they agreed upon after much discussion. The song that we're singing at the end of the service today was written by Marion Franklin Ham. I'll mention this again. In 1933, to celebrate the union of these 2 denominations. The union of these 2 denominations did not happen until 1961. So there's some good amount of time for conversation in that period. So. But as you can see by that language, it did not fit the world of the 1970s and the 1980s. The women's movement of the 1970s sort of railed at the patriarchal language exhibited in that first set of principles. And among other reasons, they pushed for a new set of principles, which were voted on in 1985. My wife Ann and I were there, as was Peter Richardson, probably more vocal than either of us 2 in terms of the language that was developed democratically and voted on almost unanimously in 1985, the number 2 that you're looking at. It's the current Article 2 of our organizational bylaws, our purposes and principles. These are the 7 principles that I preach about a lot. You may or may not be sort of interested in Unitarian Universalist thinking. You may be here for different reasons. That is part of what a Unitarian Universalist congregation is all about. But we are a Unitarian Universalist congregation, and we, especially I and a few other people, care deeply about how we express ourselves as Unitarian Universalists out in public. And so this document, this current set of principles and purposes, was a remarkable event in the history of our combined denominations, in that it didn't take as long as the first set to sort of gel, to come together. But there were issues. There were definitely issues that were being argued, especially the idea of the word God and the love of God as one of the phrases that people really wanted to lift up, still a consistent and ever-present Christian identity within our Unitarian Universalist movement, wanted to be sure that that language was there. And yet how to fit it into those 7 principles. And one of the great sort of wonderful brainstorms that one person had was, well, why don't we separate our principles and our sources? And we can certainly name our sources quite clearly. So in the source where it says we hold up our Judeo-Christian heritage, which suggests that we think about our love for God and love for each other. that kind of conversation went on for quite some time, and yet at General Assembly in 1985, there was an incredible upsurge of excitement over the new language that we were adopting. The result of changes in the culture. And at this point in time, we too are now facing changes in our culture and different challenges. The issues around specific language, around the democratic process, the dignity and worth of every person or every being. There have been conversations over the past 30 plus years, 40 years almost, about ways we might improve the language of Article 2. The only significant change that's been made since 1985 was the addition of that sixth source, which calls us to affirm and promote the ideas of our indigenous people, the people of the land, and listen to the rhythms of the earth and what it tells us in terms of how we need to behave around the earth. So why now? Why a big change, which is what I'm going to be talking about today? In 2012, a suggestion, and in fact a proposal was made to bring forth an eighth principle, which called us specifically to the work, more specifically than any of the general statements, to the work of anti-racism. Because, as an association, as much as we espouse the ideas of anti-racism and anti-oppression, we were still carrying a lot of our cultural baggage in terms of our white middle class, upper middle class culture around racism. And at our associational level, we were coming up again and again against situations where people of minorities, people of color, were not being selected for jobs where they were equally qualified. This happened especially in 2017, a big blow up that resulted in significant resignations from our association level. So there's this challenge to bring a greater emphasis into our principles for actually acting on them. And we are at a time when we are being challenged as a liberal religion, as all liberal religions are being challenged, to find ways to continue, literally, continue in our existence. Mainline congregations are closing all over the country. Unitarian Universalist congregations, small ones, have closed. We are fortunate not to have sort of been as affected by the shift in religious climate as other denominations, but then again, we are very small. And we are aging significantly. If we are going to exist as an organization in 10 or 20 years, nationally and locally, we have to do some work. Historically, we have been a religion where people come from other places. How many of you are born and raised Unitarian Universalist? Lauren? Yeah. Paula? Tony? Yeah. People come from other places. They sort of fall out of other religions and find this place as much more agreeable to a sense of freedom and openness and not being bound by a particular dogma. A sense of an enjoyable journey together. But that's not happening as much anymore. We have to, if we wish to survive as a movement, we have to do some work. And part of that is perhaps reimagining how we express ourselves to the wider world, which is the reason that a commission on our purposes and principles was formed 3 years ago, has done some significant work and across the various levels of our denomination, our separate justice, our organizations, our ministers' association, congregational life, and have have worked over the last 3 years to begin to pull together, with the help of everybody, some language that you now, the proposed language, see on the reverse side of your paper. What you can't see in that document that you have in front of you is the amount of change that's happened over the last, even the last maybe 7 or 8 months. Language that was in our previous purposes, our principles, has sort of reemerged in the new language. It wasn't there initially. So the ideals of democracy weren't explicit in previous versions of this statement. And for me, as someone who was there in 1985, who, while I was sort of lifted up by the general excitement of this new set of principles and purposes, I was truly disappointed in the day that the word love did not appear in the principles, the 7 principles. Studies had been done by one of my former teachers, in fact, Robert Lamadou Miller, that indicated that Unitarian Universalists broadly felt that the value, the ethic of love, a mature love, was basically really the fundamental sense that they have of what their religion was all about, and yet it wasn't expressed in these 7 principles. So that certainly has been addressed, that moving love right to the front, to the fore, and also recognizing some of those other principles, our interdependence, our sense of justice, equity, and a sense of pluralism, that we exist in a society that is and should be pluralistic, not only within our congregations in terms of the varied ways we look at life, but within our society and the richness and the strength that our diversity of belief gives us as we converse about all matters. So what you see in front of you is proposed language. It is language that's going to be brought to our General Assembly in June. And it is language that you, if you wish, can participate in, as if again, I'm suggesting that we might have a conversation congregationally about this subject. Anybody that's interested, that wants to talk about this and perhaps suggest some different language. At General Assembly, this congregation with its 300 members has 6 delegates that can vote at our plenary sessions at General Assembly, which means, and plus the minister, 7 actually, which means that you can have a voice in how this conversation plays out. It is assumed that new language will be edited, wordsmithed, and everything. Peter Richardson, where are you, Peter? You're in here somewhere, out in the pavilion. Peter, a retired Unitarian Universalist minister, was very active in the last session. It was the last minute. He and his wife Eleanor are on opposite sides of the floor doing their own particular wordsmithing. They didn't know each other at the time. But that's the democratic process, and this language has evolved through a democratic process, and it will continue to do so. It most likely will be voted on, up or down, in the plenary sessions at General Assembly in June. And if it's voted down, then I think the work will continue. But the work, as you think about it, if you look at the previous set of principles, one of the most important things that we value is that ongoing search for truth and meaning, a search that's taken on with a sense of responsibility. And that language in itself urges us forward to new ideas and new thoughts. In and of itself, it suggests sort of that there has to be a next step, because we are continually learning and growing, and we are continually exposed to the world, this world. And we do need to think about change and how we do express ourselves. That commitment to free and responsible search of truth and meaning carries the seeds, as someone said, of its own obsolescence. And therein, I think, is the genius of Unitarian Universalism. It's a process that is rightly called renewal and regeneration. We are urged to look at those values that we hold on a regular basis, to reflect, to act, to reflect, to act. The future of this ideal is not guaranteed. The ideal that we can create a viable religious movement that doesn't demand adherence to a particular creed, but that does call us to reflect deeply and then act in this world at this time with intention, having identified and expressed some fundamental shared values. The free and responsible search for truth and meaning is ongoing. It's a process. And for us to be viable and fresh as a tradition in the face of an ever-changing world, we too must change and grow and express in new ways the fundamental values upon which we might build that better world of which we dream. So I will call for a meeting, and I hope that many of you will join us. General Assembly is in late June. We have opportunities to converse before then. It would be up to this congregation if it wanted to direct our delegates towards voting in a particular way. But again, it's very likely that the language that you see in front of you will shift and change and be something different by the time we arrive in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, or virtually at the end of June. This is an incredible, I believe, having grown up in it, tradition. You found your way here somehow, some way. And whether you are tied distinctly to the idea of a Unitarian Universalist set of beliefs or not, you are part of that tradition, part of that growing sense that there is a possibility for diversity and unity at the same time. And so may it be with us nationally. Thank you.
I'm actually supposed to talk to you about the offering, which I will do. However, after listening to Tony and looking at that document that we have, I have to say that I grew up a Lutheran, and that was a lot easier. Lots easier. I mean, you knew the Nicene Creed or the Apostles' Creed and the Lord's Prayer, and that was it. You know, I mean, we didn't have any choice in what we were believing, really. And that's what makes this place really remarkable. Anyway. Now on to the offering. As we take time to reflect on today's words and music, let's also take time to show gratitude for this community and all that it does. The morning's offering will be gratefully received. If you're watching the video of this service, please consider sending a contribution today. The information that you need in order to donate is right on the screen.
And just a note about the text, about what we're about to sing, keeping in with the third source, this next text is from the Upanishads, which are, of course, integral to Hindu philosophy. And the text, of course, is very much in line with this idea of renewal and seeking truth. The translation is, "From untruth, lead me to truth. From darkness, lead me to light. From death, lead me to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace." And you'll notice the word peace is shanti, and it is a very unpeaceful setting of the word shanti.
Om We have a few reminders of what's happening this week at UUCGN before we get to sing again. We have a special forum next Sunday, April 2nd, with Daniel Shaw, board member of the Collier County chapter of GLSEN, who will talk about the effects of today's social and political landscapes on LGBTQ youth. Please mark your calendars for this important conversation following next week's service. Also, please note that the next installment of our wonderful Stories from You series is set for Wednesday, April 19th. Once again, we'll open our sanctuary stage to an unpredictable mix of storytellers. If you haven't been to one of these storytelling sessions, you've been missing a lot. Also, if you haven't had a chance to view the exhibit entitled Female Focus down in Menaker Gallery, please do take a look. The exhibit of art by members and friends of UUCGN honoring Women's History Month will close this week. Last, but certainly not least, members of this congregation are asked to remain in the sanctuary following this service today for our annual meeting. We will vote on the budget and the slate of officers for the coming year, as well as some bylaw changes that have been communicated already. Coffee will be available.
So just an update, I think we do give you a few minutes to go out and get your refreshments and come back in. But we do urge anybody that's a member to do that quickly and get back in here so we can begin our annual meeting fairly soon after the service ends.
Okay.
And one more announcement. Again, this is our time for the weekend meals appeal. And Missy Cowan presented her appeal to you last week. But again, we have a wonderful piece of our congregational mission that we are asked to support annually. For the last 10 years, members and friends of our congregation have responded as volunteers or with financial support to help meet the needs of Collier County students, food insecure students who would otherwise go hungry over the weekend. The program has gradually expanded to include 150 children in 5 elementary schools every week. Be assured that our team of volunteers are prepared to continue packing and delivering bags to as many students as your contributions will support. Your checks of $250 for a full subscription to a year to feed one student, $300. Do I hear 350? $150 for a shared subscription for a child, or any amount that you can possibly give it would be appreciated. So thanks to the great volunteer group that does this work. If you're interested in that, see Missy Cowan. She's away this weekend, which is why I'm doing this. And thanks to everybody involved. So again, if you're a member of the congregation, please act quickly, go out and get some refreshments, come back in here, and let's get our annual meeting started. But first we sing our closing hymn, as mentioned earlier by Marion Franklin Ham, number 145 in your gray hymnal. It's short, As Tranquil Streams. Remember, this was written in sort of the hope of a combined Unitarian and Universalist movement. Please rise.
As tranquil streams that meet and merge and flow as one to seek the sea, our kindred hearts and minds unite to build a church that shall be free. Free from the bonds that bind the mind to narrow thought and lifeless creed. Free from a social code that fails to serve the cause of human need. A freedom that reveres the past but trusts the dawning future more, and bids the soul in search of truth adventure boldly and explore. A prophetic church, the future waits your liberating ministry. Go forward in the power of love, proclaim the truth that makes us free.
Both power and still latent power in our congregations and in our movement. It isn't here in the pulpit, nor does it reside in any one of us, but it does run between us, between me and you, and the children down the hall and the teachers. The power springs from the connections we make, the collective hope that we share, the communal narrative that we write, the tapestry that we weave as a multi-generational community of faith. The power is reinforced and transformed again and again by our felt experience of those connections, by the wonder everyone sees in everyone else they see. And so it builds. Go in peace, go in love. Back here in the sanctuary very quickly.